as chair of the LP Texas for 4 years, as national chair from 2002 to 2004, as acting executive director of the National Party from 2002 to 2003, as operations manager of the 2004 Bednera campaign, and current national chair, Mr. Geoff Neale. Oh, I use it later.
Yeah, exactly. I'll keep you updated anytime it changes. You know, I have to, before I get into what I've prepared formally, it really was intended to have a larger audience because, as I said earlier, I'd much rather speak to 800 or 1,000 people. Believe it or not, most people would not, but I would love to, because it's a lot easier to connect with an audience when there's a lot of people. And once you get above a certain number of people, then you can get into the group dynamics. So I'm fully aware that some of the things I might say might fall on deaf ears or be a little flat because it's a small group, but I'll do the best I can. But the first thing I thought this morning was, I have to confess. Just like this is Libertarians Anonymous. Yes, I am a libertarian. And I confess my failings that I was a little bit, maybe even a little bit depressed that the turnout here is not higher. That there's not more people from Colorado. That there's not more state affiliates. And I'm only talking to a group of, eight or 10 people. But I reminded myself then, I've led a very interesting life. I was working in Germany when the wall came down. And so I'm a lot more intimately familiar with what was actually going on than the US media really disclosed openly. And I'm not talking secrets. I'm not talking all the little conspiracies. I'm not there. I'm not a Bilderberger brother, okay? But one of the things was when I read the progress of the democracy movement in East Germany. It started in a church in Leipzig. The first meeting was less than 20 people. And 6 months later, in the square outside of that church, there were over 600,000 people in the street. Now, if we'd gone there that first meeting and said, how are we going to do this? They didn't plan that. But as my analogy is, my job is to try to figure out how to create an avalanche. It's all of our jobs. And the best way to create an avalanche is not by picking the biggest rock and seeing how much you can push it. Because you can't tell on the side of the hill if that's a rock or as part of the mountain itself when you're pushing for no gain. But a pebble or a small rock, you can move. Moving the right rocks, moving the right pebbles starts the avalanches, starts things moving. And that's what happened in Leipzig, in East Germany, when the wall came down. These small group of people got together and said, no, we want democracy. And how well did it work? Well, the reason the wall came down, it was pure pressure. Over 10% of the East German population left the country in 1 year. Now, who left? Well, it wasn't the cab drivers, the bus drivers, the guys with the 9-to-5. It wasn't the people working for the government with the cush jobs and the benefits and the private dachas in their countryside. It was the intellectuals, it was the business people, it was the educated people, doctors, lawyers, and they experienced the fastest, most severe brain drain in the history of the world. And they had to open the wall because collapse was days away. They lost because they lost a key portion of the population. So when I think about that, it gives me hope that we don't have to win the hearts and minds of every single person in the country. We have to win the hearts and minds of the right people in the country. But we have to win their hearts and minds. So I'm going to start now with my actual speech, Be Dangerous. I'll read here as much as I can. I'll try not to read too much. But like many libertarians, I've read dozens and dozens of books, the great books of libertarian philosophy. Rothbard, von Mises, Hayek, Smith, Locke, and Rand. And I still read them. You know, I'm learning when I can. But that's not all I read. And We have to realize that one of the greatest things about the Libertarian Party is that we have this solid academic underpinning. We have resources to go to. We can say, this principle, the reason why this is good, is this reason. Now, another thing I know is for a fact that the only truly global political movements in history have been those with a philosophic and academic foundation. This is why there's no global Republican Party, why there's no global Democratic Party. Because, well, their positions drift with the tides. Ours are anchored. It's a big benefit. And it's why now their libertarian political movement is taking roots across the world, and we have libertarian parties in, and I love to read through this list, bear with me. Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Cyprus, Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Germany, Italy, Kyrgyzstan, Netherlands, New Zealand, Peru, Russia, Serbia, Spain, Switzerland, the Ukraine, the United Kingdom, and last, alphabetically, and not least, the United States. Now, Ayn Rand has sold over 25 million books since 1937. It's a lot of books. She's been published in 60 or 70 different languages. Well, I thought about that, and what I realized is the vast majority of the people of the world have never read Ayn Rand. But also realize something else. The vast majority of the people who read Ayn Rand never became libertarians. I challenge anybody to say that it started with Rand ever has. What I believe is that Rand was the person who switched on that mental light bulb that created the epiphany where somebody said, this is me. This is what I believe. And I hear that all the time. I've been a libertarian all my life. I just never realized it. So, our job is switching on light bulbs in these people. Not converting them, but helping them self-identify as libertarians. And the first thing I tell you is, there is no one message we can do. It's multiples. It's whatever that epiphany is for you. Now, I also read a lot of books by non-libertarians. And guilty, I read for fun. I read spy novels. I used to read science fiction, but I got over that. I know lots of people have them, but I got over that. But I've also read a lot of self-help books, positive mental attitudes, how to succeed, how to win kind of books. And I think every one of us could do well by reading some of those. Look, a lot of these are oriented towards sales, and our job is selling the libertarian philosophy to people. It's part of our toolkit we all need. And after all, if every one of us should be an effective seller of liberty, because we cannot sell liberty, the objective we hold above all others, we are doomed to failure. We all need to become more effective at selling. But this is also why I've said that I think the one book that I would, if I could pick a book for every libertarian to read, knowing they haven't read, or few have, it would be How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Because we're in the people business, we're not. Every business is a people business. Until robots are doing the purchasing themselves, it's going to be people business. It's something we have to learn to do. And why? Well, because people never buy what they need. Never. They buy what they want. Only when they want to buy what they need do they buy what they need. Because now they want it. And we have evidence all over the world for that, on and on and on. My kid's got Nike, Jordan, blah, 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 and I don't have food. Yeah, how many things out there? Does anybody really need, did anybody ever really need to buy a Yugo? No. For some reason, they wanted to. Well, now, I've also educated myself in the writings of those who teach us how to win. Not how, not just why. I'm going to give everybody in this room and everybody in the Libertarian Party permission to be proud of being a Libertarian, first off. Stop defending it. Stop going, oh, I'm sorry, but I'm a Libertarian. It's nothing wrong with it. Don't apologize. Be proud. Be confident. But now, some of these writings, I've read people like Machiavelli and Sun Tzu and Musashi, von Clausewitz, Yamamoto, Lawrence. And these guys, most of those are military. And a lot of people, I know, well, that sounds a little militaristic. I say, well, these are all standard writings in business schools for a good reason. To paraphrase Sun Tzu, the ultimate victory is to win without fighting. I don't want violence. I want to win. So I want to win without fighting if I can. Now, I found out that there's something I love that is so mundane and ordinary. I love to quote people that are smarter than me. We all do it. Nobody, in my opinion, has expressed my opinion about government better than Washington when he said, government is not reason, it is not eloquent, it is force. Like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. That quote states my position and feeling about government so well, I don't know that anybody could ever improve upon it, for me. Well, another thing, there are a lot of things that have been said by people that weren't libertarians. I've given some of these quotes before and had people come and say, well, yeah, I like that quote, but you know, he wasn't libertarian. I don't care. Okay, I ate a sausage made by a non-libertarian company this morning. I flew on an airline that wasn't run by libertarians. I want my libertarianism to apply to my political world and my ethical and my behavior, but I don't care if I never have, oh, I don't know, a calculator built by a libertarian. It doesn't matter to me. And so let's keep ourselves. Do you think maybe sometimes we look a little bit extreme if we communicate that? If you thought that was okay, so you don't need to share with me afterwards that that wasn't a libertarian. I do know that. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry said, perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. That is our attitude about government. Now, we'd argue about how much more we can take away. But what we're saying in a nutshell is exactly what he said, except what he said is not about government, it's about everything. So perhaps libertarian philosophy is really nothing more than a manifestation of this, or Occam's razor, or many of the other things that have been said about that. So one day I'm reading, and to quote Einstein, who said it better, simpler, but less eloquently. Things should be as simple as possible and no simpler. That's it. Now one day I'm reading The Seven Pillars of Wisdom by T.B. Lawrence, and for those of you who don't know who he is, that's Lawrence of Arabia, a brilliant man, changed the face of warfare. In many ways, I think he was quite libertarian about non-interventionism. He said, leave Arabia to the Arabs, keep the Western world out of it. And if he'd gotten his way, we probably wouldn't be in the mess we're in today in the Middle East. Because that whole avalanche started when France and England started carving up the Middle East to their benefit. Well, I read this one phrase, all men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their minds wake in the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dreams with open eyes to make it possible. For me, that was an epiphany. That was my light bulb moment where I said, okay, he said it for me, what it's all about. Anyone and everyone who acts on their dreams is dangerous. The Libertarian Party is the most dangerous political party in this country. Our political objective is to minimize government and maximize liberty, and liberty is dangerous. We're the most dangerous political party in this country for those who have rigged the game for their own interests or have sold the unwitting on the dubious benefits of being pawns in a rigged game. But we're not dangerous enough. Before I talk about how to be more dangerous, let's be clear. The path to our political success is dangerous. It's unavoidable. In order to win, We have to steel ourselves to the inevitable. The more successful we become, the harder the battle that the people we challenge will bring against us. And I don't think we've seen anything yet to what they'll throw at us. So if we're not ready for that, if we're like, well, I want libertarianism, but can it be safe? No, we can't. We're upsetting the apple cart. That's our job. In my opinion, we need to embrace it. I'm fine with saying we are the most dangerous political party in this country. And people say, well, what do you mean? Well, you're not very dangerous. Not yet, but we intend to be more dangerous. That's our goal, to be more dangerous. Now look, Gandhi said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. Well, they don't ignore us anymore. They've stopped ignoring us. The laughter is subsiding, and they're just beginning to fight. Be prepared. Yes, I want to talk about how to win. I want to talk about how we can succeed. And I want to tell you right now that success is simple. Do what's right, the right way, at the right time. Success is simple. Do more of what works and less of what doesn't. Success is simple. It's just not easy. We need to do the things that need to be done. If we keep looking for, oh, if we could only, this would be easier, if we could do, it's not going to work. It never does. The battle always goes to the guy who prepares the most, who trains the most, who thinks ahead, who strategizes, who anticipates. It doesn't go to the guy that says, well, let's go out there, have a picnic, and hope we win. Sun Tzu writes more eloquently on that, but I'm not going to quote him anymore. Now, libertarians love to quote Einstein. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. I've heard that from, last count, about 387 libertarians. Except Einstein never said it. It was written by Rita Mae Brown in her book Sudden Death in 1983. But the quote that is believed to be the origin of this is from the 1982 edition of the Basic Text of Narcotics Anonymous. Insanity is repeating the same mistakes and expecting the different results. Notice there's a big difference there. You repeat what works and you change your mistakes or eliminate them. It's not like, well, I tried fundraising once, it didn't work. What did you do wrong? One of the things is you didn't ask enough people. We know it's a numbers game. We know that maybe you're only hit 1 in 10. Maybe after a couple of years, you'll get it up to 3 in 10 that you'll get a fundraising from. They'll show you doing it right. But you repeat the things that work and avoid the things that don't. So what I'm saying here is we do more of what works and less of what doesn't. But that means that you have to embrace the introspection of saying, what I did, what worked, what didn't, how can I correct, how can I take responsibility? Because, you see, I think in order to be successful, the first thing we have to do is to look in the mirror, whether it's real or metaphorical. I'm a libertarian. I've tried as hard as I can through my career in every field that I work in. I learned something because I'm an arrogant ass. But I found that doesn't sell well. I found that I love to argue with people, and I found out that I don't win. What I did learn, though, is that if I look and say, what could I have done differently? What could I have changed in my actions to affect the outcome? No matter how big, no matter how small. What could I have done differently? And this has a far-reaching scope. Maybe you live in a state where the affiliate, the chair is doing something wacky and you go, I didn't vote for him. Or maybe you're going to say, well, I didn't know he was that kind of a guy. Well, maybe you didn't ask the right questions. Maybe you didn't step forward and run. That's a big one, isn't it? I don't like my leaders, but I don't want to lead. Sorry, we do have to be willing to do the things that are uncomfortable. We have to step forward. Look, another thing is I think that in order for us to survive, we have to thrive. There's just not enough people here today, folks. We should be overflowing. We should kick the wedding party out and take over that room. And not just here, but in every meeting we have. How do we get people in the door? Well, we need to grow. We need more members. We need more donors. We need more voters. We need more of everything. We are undercapitalized, both in human and monetary capital. We're like a football team with too many quarterbacks, too many coaches. And we need an offensive line and a defensive line. We need a bench and assistant coaches and trainers and water boys and cheerleaders and groundskeepers. And more than anything else, we need fans. No team is a winning team without fans. So what role are you willing to fill on that football team? Whatever role we need, or only the ones you want? Because our choices are really very simple. We do the best we can with what we've got, or we get some people who can fill the roles we need. It is that simple. It's not easy, but it's that simple. So how are you, is each person in this room and each person in this party going to say, what can I do? Well, number one is step up. Number two is help us find more people. Look, we need more people. But it's really important that the coach and the quarterback and the players on the field know the playbook. The coach and the quarterback are the ones that have to know it intimately. And the players have to fill the role in order for the team to win. It's not important if the water boy knows the playbook. It's not important if the fan knows the playbook. They want to see the win. It's not important if you're not a 100 libertarian, if your role you want to fill is to be the water boy or the fan. But please don't turn over the playbook to people who don't know it. And we make that mistake way too often. I'll use the church analogy, because it does fit. A lot of people get offended. Small enough group, I can fight you off. For us, libertarianism is almost like a religion. It just doesn't have a God, but it has all the other philosophical, moral, and implications involved with it. Now, our job is to put butts in seats. The way you do that is by opening the door and saying, please, place your butt in one of my seats. Thank you for coming. We love having you. It's great. We don't want to say, are you ready to preach from the pulpit yet? No, because most of them never will be, or ever want to be, the people up there. Or the guys in the back room, the theologians, arguing about what the scripture means. We really don't need those people walking in. Now, we like to run, backtrack. I think anyone who calls themselves a libertarian is a libertarian. It doesn't mean I'll vote for them for chair or run them as a candidate. And if we don't agree with this, then please let's stop doing Operation Politically Homeless. Let's stop running the world's smallest political quiz and come up with a new one that says 100 libertarian, everybody else state as pig. Because that's what we're saying. If we don't act the way that chart reads, when we give that test, we do it all over the place. We don't act that way when people come in. We're committing an act of fraud, folks. We're not being good libertarians. We're telling them they're libertarian if they're up here. We have to act that way at all of our meetings. Now look, nobody comes to a libertarian meeting as a true believer. So don't quiz them on the playbook. Make them think they want to be here. Ask them, they want to come back. But look, I want you to think of the Operation Politically Homeless type, the outreach. We're at the fair, we're talking to people, doing the table at a gun show, stuff like that. I want you to think of that as speed dating. It's what it is. They're going to spend 5 minutes with you and decide if they want a first date with you. You don't share that much. You just say, is there a connection? Is this the kind of person, that's what I like to call passing the beer test? Would I want to sit down and have a beer with this person? That's what those are for. So what are the right kind of people to put there? People who don't even know how to debate. Maybe they've only been in the party for 2 years and they're excited. We don't need theology. Now when they come to that first meeting, anybody who shows up for the first time at a Libertarian, this might be radical to some of you. Anybody that shows up for the first time at a Libertarian Party meeting already thinks they're a Libertarian. They wouldn't be coming. It's not like they're going home saying, honey, there's nothing on TV. Is any first-run movies we'd like to see? Hey, you want to go have a drink and listen to some jazz? No, honey, let's go check out those Libertarians. They've already checked us out. Whether it's through a press release they read or a candidate they heard, somewhere the light went on is, I might be a Libertarian. And then they show up, and that's the first date, right? What do you do? What's the purpose of a first date, folks? To get a second date. So what should we be doing with these people? Putting on our best behavior and don't talk about the politics at all. What you want to talk about is their favorite topic. And anybody who's read How to Win Friends and Influence People will know what the answer is. What's their favorite topic? Themselves. Well, how do you do that? You ask. This is simple. I know it's not easy, but they're little skills. And the first trick I'll teach you how you can become good at this. Learn how to shut up. Don't, if you're uncomfortable asking more than 3 questions that Pat Dixon, for example, put into your mouth, ask these questions. Then say, here, let me introduce you to some other people. Pass them off. Learn some techniques. This is bonehead stuff, guys. Maybe if you want on-the-job training, go to a church for a couple of months just to see how successful churches do this. It's just dealing with people because, newsflash, we're human too. Some people have conspiracy theories. They think we're not. The Bilderberger brothers, as I call them, they think we're crossbred with aliens or whatever, but no, we're all human. I want you to envision the reality that someone might join or not join ELP because they like or do not like you individually, regardless of our philosophy. You alone might be the reason why someone joins or doesn't. You see, I believe that one of our greatest strengths is also one of our greatest weaknesses. They always come together paired like that, threats and opportunities. We are all strong individualists. Now, in order to be an individualist, what do? You manifest how we, or I, or you, are different from everybody else. But movements are not built based on differences. They're built based on commonalities. So if somebody comes to your meeting and you stress how you're different than them, you're reinforcing why we are a failure as a movement. Or actually, we're not a failure. It's why we have yet to succeed as a movement. We do all need to learn some of these people skills until we can find people who get it and can do it. If you are really, I don't like to be like this, I want to argue with everybody, it's okay, but we need to dilute you first. In smaller numbers, it won't matter as much. We just need to make sure that there are some people around, in fact a larger number, that can do that. Another, I think, of our great strengths, weaknesses are examples of how we run ourselves. You see, I can't take you anywhere and say, look, this is an example of how libertarians run governments. What I do have is examples of county affiliates, state affiliates, the National Committee, and our executive office staff. Those are examples of how we do things. Sorry guys, they're not good enough. We have no institutional memory. We're anecdotal and too much. Let's make it up. I don't care that somebody did this before, I'll make it up new. I'll write a policy when I could buy one online for $29. These are all really kind of dysfunctional things, again, expressing the fact that we're individuals. I'll set my own path. I've got my spin on everything. We have some people who are like, well, I really don't know anything about that. Let's ask an expert. But they didn't mean the guy sitting next to them on the board that said, but I'm an expert on everything. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about somebody who's like a track record. Now, we need more leaders in this party, without question. But what we really need, even more than leaders, is leadership. And this is something where I want to challenge you on this. There's an old saying, lead, follow, or get out of the way. My theory, my opinion, is that each of those, leading, following, or getting out of the way, is personal leadership. Stepping forward and saying, yes, I'll lead, is leadership. Stepping back and saying, I'll support you, Joe, is leadership. It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be you. But don't turn it over to somebody who is doing it for the wrong reasons or isn't qualified, you know. Do it. But then getting out of the way can also mean supporting. It means offering your support. It means if you really disagree with what the body is doing, yeah, you can go off and rant on your blogs about how they're all idiots and things like that, but how does that add? I'm not sure. If it's the vote of the National Committee is 16-2 to do X, my opinion, those other two people ought to say, well, the will of the body is X, I'll get behind it, or I'll say nothing, or I'll quit. That's the positions I would take, and I think that's a better leadership role. You see, because I believe that you cannot lead if you don't know how to follow. It's just that simple. If you can't follow other people, you're not a leader. Look, the way I put it is the only other choices between lead, following, or getting out of the way are to be a roadblock, or a speed bump, or a pothole, or a dead-end street, or even an IED. None of those help anybody. All right, I'll be blunt. We're in a battle for political market share. All that stuff I'm talking about, that's internal. I won't talk external. We're in a battle for political market share. Our first priority should always be to retain the market share we have. It's always harder to get old clients to come back to you because you screwed them, or you mistreated them, or you ignored them, or you gave them bad service or shoddy products, than it is to get somebody new. It's always got to be our first job. We need to maintain our core, but then we need to expand our market share and maintain them. In order to do that, we need to establish brand loyalty to the Libertarian Party. Plain and simple. Now, in order to do that, we have to target those who have no loyalty. And there's a lot of those today. It's a ripe open market. Or those whose loyalty lies with the Democrats and Republicans. The good news is there's a lot of people out there who are unaffiliated, decline to stay, independent, that no longer want to be tagged with either of the D's or the R's. But the techniques we use to get these people are no different than we would use to get Democrats and Republicans. We have to establish our brand. The difference is the D's and R's will fight back. Got to be ready. Now look, to me this is very much like taking on Pepsi and Coke. I'll use them as an example because everybody understands it. It'll be a long and difficult process, and they will not lay down and give us their market share. What I also know is that we cannot adopt any kind of tactic that would be the equivalent of saying Coke drinkers are stupid or Pepsi drinkers dress funny, and we do that all the time. It's one thing to insult the Republican leadership or the Republican senators, or the Republican House of Representatives, or the Democratic president. But we don't want to say, oh, Republicans are stupid. I mean, come on, guys. Does that really, do people get why this isn't a good marketing strategy? Hey, you're stupid. Why don't you join me? Have you ever heard us do that? Yes. It's not a big change, really, to just put leaders after the word Republican. Now you're creating a wedge that you can drive between disaffected Democrats, because you're not insulting them. You're saying, your leaders have led you down the wrong road. They're out of touch. Let's say all the things that our members say about us. Ooh. But unfortunately, politics is not a commodity. Although many elected officials appear to be. There's no politics aisle in the supermarket. And the only place politics is sold to the public is in the media and in the voting booth. That's the challenge. I believe we get the media we deserve. I don't think there's a media conspiracy to stifle us. I think there's not a well enough established market that's going, we want more libertarian stuff. So they don't fill it. Now the Democrats and Republicans have a huge and distinct advantage over us. They get many opportunities to place their brand names in front of America, and there are reasons why. First and foremost is the majority of their branding is due to just about all of the elected officials being Democratic and Republicans. Every week they're on every front page of every newspaper, on every news website, on every talk show. Their name is constantly in the news, and ours is not. The second level of branding that contributes to their market presence is that the vast majority of candidates are Democrats and Republicans. And we run as many as we can, but it's a drop in the bucket. The third level of branding is where we have a chance of parity. The Republican National Committee, the Democratic National Committee, the Libertarian National Committee are the most equivalent in terms of their effect on the brand, on the national dialogue. In other words, all three of them are inconsequential, but we have parity with them. The press ignores the RNC most of the time, and the DNC most of the time, and they invite people, okay, so they ignore us all the time. But 99% of the time, they pay exactly the same attention to us as they do to the RNC and the DNC. The answer is not the LNC or headquarters going, ooh, we can solve the problem by what we brand, personally. Now, the other thing I want you to keep in mind is that the advantage that the media pays to politics is that it's peak during election cycles. Let's call it 25% of the time. 75% of the time, the elected, it's all about who's in office, not who's running. Until we get people in office, 75% of the time, the only people on the stage are elected officials. Yes, it's important to get there, but if all we do to increase our market share is issue press releases to the media from the LNC and run as many candidates as we can, we're battling for market share where the competition is highest, the costs are highest, and the noise level is the highest. We're fighting a battle where our opponents are strongest, and we do not have the market share yet to make more than modest incremental gains. Sun Tzu would tell us to fight where the opponent is not looking, is not prepared, and is not defending. We're going full-on force with our minimal number of people, and they're going, oh, here come those annoying little Yorkie Terriers again. That's what we're doing. We are just an annoyance to them at this point. So, my proposal is we start an aggressive as we can media campaign aimed at increasing our market share by buying media. When? When nobody else is buying media. Why? Well, we get this thing called preemptible rates on political advertising. Now, a preemptible rate means this is the lowest we'll give, first in gets it. Nobody else can take that space for you unless they buy non-preemptible, which is full price. Now, during the Badnera campaign, one of the techniques we used, we were going around and buying preemptible ads all across the country during the presidential campaign. And the Republicans were using their operatives to find out where we had bought the ads and buying non-preemptible ads to take the money away from us. So imagine you've got an ad that would cost us $20,000 to run the ad, costs them $40,000 to replace us. They spend 40,000, we take that same 20,000, move it over here. They spend 40,000, we take the same 20,000, move it over here. They take that spot. I don't know exactly how many millions of dollars we leveraged by buying a few $100,000 worth of ads, but we did. They respond. They didn't like it. We took money away that they could have used for running whoever it was that who did. I don't even know who lost into it. It was Bush. He won anyway. And we also know, by the way, I don't know if this is something that's common knowledge, but I don't mind telling you. We decided to run a very coordinated and intensive on-site presence in New Mexico, being a swing state that we thought we could swing. The population was small enough, single media market, all the reasons why it was a good idea. So we scheduled a 3 or 4 day swing for Michael Bednarik with lots of events and fundraisings and all this kind of stuff. And 4 days before it happens, we hear George Bush has changed his campaign plans and is bringing Air Force One and his entire team to New Mexico while we're there. Anybody think that was an accident? You don't understand that we can play in this game. There are ways that we can do it. So anyway, my first goal is to increase brand awareness. People have to know about the Libertarian Party, that we exist. The first thing is to know that they have to know the name. If we're putting out Fred Cola to compete against Coke and Pepsi, the first thing people have to know is that there is a Fred Cola on the market. Because chances are they're not even going to try Fred Cola until they've seen 7 or 10 ads for Fred Cola. What the ad says is important, but the presence is what will build the interest. We also want to create some kind of a brand affinity. We do want people to know what we stand for, but we do not want to educate in our media. As John Maxwell wrote, educators take something simple and make it complicated. Communicators take something complicated and make it simple. Oh, by the way, have you ever figured out you can't educate anybody by force? But people who want to be educated will come to you and say, teach me. Our goal is to put people in those seats that say, please, you know more about this. Teach me. What should I read? But they have to come to us. The idea that we're going to go out and educate America. Well, it didn't work for the government with public education, did it? Why the hell do we think it'll work for us? We need to communicate. Now, as I put it, educating people is exactly the same as telling people to read Atlas Shrugged first. Most will not, and even those that do will not always join. And you will piss off a lot of people who said, I read that for what? Oh my God, I don't like that book. Effective marketing requires repetition. People need to see a message or hear a message a number of times before they take action. The number of phased repetitions that I've heard quoted the most is a minimum of 7. So running one really cool 19-minute infomercial is going to have a very limited appeal, especially if you could use that same amount of money to run 250 short ads. That has a much better chance of winning. It's Dale Carnegie wrote, personally, I'm very fond of strawberries and cream, but I've found that for some reason fish prefer worms. So when I went fishing, I didn't think about what I wanted. I didn't think about what I wanted. I thought about what they wanted. I didn't bait the hook with strawberries and cream. Rather, I dangled a worm in front of the fish and said, wouldn't you like to have that? Why not use the same common sense when fishing for people? That's what advertising is. Now, the first objective is to know what to bait your hook with. The second is knowing where to fish. I mean, obviously you bait your hook and throw it in the parking lot. Well, good luck, you're not going to get a fish. That's obvious. Right now, we're working on a plan. The LNC is approved in concept moving forward this. It's create a multitude of 15-second spots with a common theme. You might be a libertarian. Now let's be clear, we're talking about an experiment. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to work, but I know that the only person who's guaranteed of getting what they want is the person who tries nothing. So I say let's do something. Now, Other people have said, well, we should tell people they're libertarians, including one of our high top ticket candidates said, you should tell them they're libertarians. No. My perspective on sales, everybody go back and read Tom Sawyer, just the paragraph on whitewashing the fence, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. We don't tell people anything. We make them want what we're selling. And you do that by teasing. You do that by piquing their interest and have them want to find out more. We want to bait the hook and tease the public. And we want people to bite. We want the people to decide for themselves because although we're fishing for food, we're not fishing with a harpoon. These aren't victims. So the common theme of the spots is simple statement. If you think some statement, you might be a libertarian, go to youmightbe.com to find out. 15-second spots, short. That's it. If you think the government should work for you and not the other way around, you might be a libertarian. If you think the only kind of fiat currency we should have is to buy Italian cars, you might be a libertarian. If you think chances of UFOs being real is higher than chances Social Security will remain solvent, you might be a libertarian. If you think it's up to you and your partner who wears the pants and who wears the dress, you might be a libertarian. If you're an adult and want to be treated like an adult, you might be a libertarian. Now, I want to quote Einstein one more time. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Failure to communicate simply is a reflection of the communicator, not of the listener. Keep it simple, bait the hook. Now, the intent is to get people interested enough to go to our website, and find out. And because of that, I want these ads to be whatever works. Maybe funny, caustic, hit, whatever. We'll have copies of all of our ads on this website, and I'd like to have dozens of them. Because what my vision of doing this is for any of you who are familiar with an organization called Demotivators, you go to the Demotivator site and you look through every single one of them. Why? Because they're all fun and cool. So my goal is to get somebody to go to the website saying, that ad piqued my interest. There are more? Let me see them. Repetition. Issues. High level. They're asking you, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. Sorry, I'm not going to have a sales pitch on there. I'm not going to have a libertarian sales pitch, which is 17,000 words on why the Lagrange points need to be protected. Simple messages, statements of belief, where they can say, tell me more, and go deeper into them. Because if they get them, I don't want to preach to the choir. We need to end the Fed. Okay? Somebody goes, yeah, I agree. They're going to skip over it. Of course they want to end the Fed. Somebody else goes, what's the Fed? Well, the Fed or whatever. Those people want to be educated, let them. Don't force everybody to read these huge tomes. So now what we're left with then, by the way, these ads, they'll be online. You'll be able to share them. They're 15 seconds, perfect meme size, Facebook, YouTube, whatever. People will be able to share them. We don't want these taglines to be thought of by a small group that meets 3 times a year called the LNC. I don't want that. What I want is to engage our members going, I like that, that's cool, I thought of a line. Post it. We'll review it. It'll have to meet certain requirements, as in we have to be able to fit it within 15 seconds and it can't be vulgar. Well, I don't know, maybe there's a latitude in the vulgarity thing. I'm not going to, it depends on who the audience is. I don't want to be putting a prim ad on it, for example, when Red Eye is showing it. Red Eye ad, anything's fine, especially cat videos. I can tell the Red Eye viewers based on the references. I'm doing my instant polling. But I want the input of the members because I want the members to collaborate. Because I want the members to understand that yes, I'm asking for money from them from time to time, and yes, I want them to vote, and yes, I want them to work. But here's some more things you can do that maybe you think are fun. I want the members to tell us what they like and which ones they do and don't like. I want people who make videos to experiment with how these things work. All right, so all you're left with is deciding where to fish. Well, my first target would be John Stossel Show because the demographic is so libertarian already. And what's amazing is the unit cost of marketing, of running ads is inexpensive, relatively. Later, because we're building a common framework around different messages, it will be easy for state and local affiliates to run ads targeted to their particular demographic. If you live in an area that is predominantly Republican, doesn't really like the gay marriage thing and the marijuana thing, then you can run the Fed and the fiat currencies and all our positions and target those ads to your demographic. And if you're in San Francisco, you can run the hell, we want to do whatever we want kind of ads. And drop well, you can still run the Fed ones. But you understand what I'm saying is by having multitudes, then we let the local media target. Everybody comes to the website, we get people to find out more, get them to join. The membership comes down the hill. And also, like I said, I'll explain our positions. But I only have one question. We are pursuing this, putting it together. We're in the planning stage. I need some money. I need some volunteers to help put this together. But there's one problem I've got. My biggest fear is that it will work. It truly is. The biggest flaw we have is that it will work. And I'll drive these ads, sorry, it won't be me, it won't be her. These ads will drive thousands or tens of thousands, who knows how many, prospective members to our sites. And then they'll go, how do I get involved? Where's the local meetings? And maybe they'll find out that there is none. Or they'll go to it and the Bilderberger brothers will attack them. That's my biggest fear. So this is why I brought all the other stuff up first. Because it really is important that we do those kinds of things. Remember, all men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their minds wake in the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dreams with open eyes to make it possible. Be dangerous. Dream with open eyes and act to make it possible. Or to say it like a libertarian, the world you desire can be won. It exists. It is real. It is possible. It is yours. John Galt. Thank you. Yes, sir.
So I like your idea
Well,
with the websites and stuff, or whoever's group's idea, whoever.
it's group
we
thinking.
think it to.
And in fact, I'll be honest with you, Mr. Dixon, I think this even predates you in Travis County, doesn't it?
I'm sorry, I was.
David Eagle was
Yeah.
the chair of the Travis County, where we came up with a set of ads saying,
Yes.
if you think, well, you might be a libertarian.
Yep.
And we did these radio ads because we thought, well, hey, this is cool.
The one thing that hit me is, as you mentioned the plan,
We're ripping off
is
Jeff Foxworth.
you're missing the under 25 crowd.
And
And I just from the experiences I've had with them, and obviously I'm not part of that crowd either, is they are, websites are the old people's game. They want to text someplace and maybe get, send a text here, and we'll send these out daily or something. And at some point you get them to then start going to websites and that type of thing. So,
Well, I mean, that would be-
I'm saying just interface with some of the 20-year-olds or whatever, see what works with them, because
Of course.
I'm no expert on 20-year-olds.
Of course.
But
But here,
I'm saying, websites.
It's part of the strategy.
Great, but yeah, you gotta dig deeper now, because.
The strategy
the
is
younger
not-
group is beyond websites.
the strategy is not, the plan is not exclusive.
Right.
We've not ruled anything out. It is inclusive. We'll put in whatever works.
I just wanna throw that out there, say,
Absolutely. I agree with you
look
100%.
beyond websites.
Well, we are, but I need people to go to a website to be able to donate. You can't donate with a text.
Yeah.
Actually, can.
You can? Oh, yeah. Including filling out all the FEC requirements?
That's what I'm saying, you gotta get to the
Can
younger
you
crowd.
do all the FEC
Where there's
requirements?
a will, there's a way.
Well, I did hear recently, I read that texting is dying and being replaced.
Well, if I'm not, do you need FEC guidelines up to like X amount of dollars? Like,
No, you have to ask for any donation
Even
of any
after
kind.
like-
You have to
even if it's
require it above a certain level.
okay.
Yeah. Now, believe me, FEC, I've been treasurer for 7 FEC campaigns, and also the LNC, so.
I'm not a tech guy, but I'm sure somebody around here could probably figure this out.
Jillian knows me well, she knows that whatever's possible, I'm open to it. And I'm a tech guy, what I was trying to, this is why I want young people to tell me what the message should be.
Absolutely.
The show I want us to advertise on more, the show where the L word is dropped more than any other show, because it's daily, is the Red Eye. Who here, does anybody even know it exists?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it runs at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
And
I'm
it's-
asleep at that time.
Yeah, but see, the thing is that lots of people either, go on Fox Online to get it, or they DVR it, or, well, let's face it, lots of young people go, sleep, I don't need sleep. I'll sleep on the job tomorrow. I'll sleep in class. It's an excellent show. I like it because it is very out there. It is very edgy, odd, strange, kind of like what Saturday Night Live was when it first came out to my generation. And it's a great place to put those ads. And that definitely trends this a very young trending market, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Brad back here knows. Yes, ma'am.
Would it be possible to get a copy of your speech? There was a lot of people that weren't here that should have the information.
Sure,
I would
except that
like
it's a
to-
work in progress, I'd have to say, as of
Oh, sure.
certain day, and,
I'm not gonna hold you to anything.
Well, and I winged it a
There
little
are
bit
some
with some of this
ideas,
because of
yeah.
the size.
There's some ideas that I think some others should hear about, so.
There's very little in what I said that's original. Let me be clear, I learned in college a very long time ago that if you steal somebody else's work, it's called plagiarism. But if you steal a whole bunch of people's work, it's called research.
Yes.
And so,
I'm doing my research right
yes,
now.
I'm, excellent, no, that'll be fine. If you'll just send an email to chair@lp.org and say, you said you'd send me a copy,
Okay.
I'll send you a copy. But it might take a few days just because I'm on
You're busy.
BlackBerry.
Yeah.
No, I'm on a BlackBerry. And I'm sorry. I'm stuck in the dark ages. Anybody else have any, and I'm looking for questions, feedback. Feedback's great.
I think the idea about welcoming people when it comes the first time, like it's a first date, that's been a big issue. They don't come back. So maybe a person on the
Especially
board
women.
of these, or a welcoming committee or a hospitality committee that sort of tends to that, because that just sort of gets missed.
It is good, and of course, it's, I will share what I told with Rob earlier. I had the pleasure, well, dubious pleasure in one way. In 1980, I was sent by my company, I was the vice president of data processing. We call it a CIO today, Chief Information Officer, for an insurance company. And I was sent to a conference of 3,600 accountants. And I'm not pretty sure why, he just thought it would be beneficial for me. And well, he was the CEO and I was, only 25, and I said, okay. And the keynote speaker was a guy from North Carolina, I can't remember which university it is, I know it's the Carolinas. And he was talking in 1980 about something that I'd never heard of, and I'm sure was so leading edge at that point, called change management. A concept that really didn't come into, it wasn't really embraced until the late 80s. And one of the things he said was, change comes from top to bottom, inside out. Always. If the leadership does not embrace change, then change will not come fast enough. Leadership must embrace change, but also be a certain amount of luck. So one kid in his class says, well, surely there's times where change comes from outside in and bottom to top. He says, yes, absolutely there. They're called revolutions, and you can't manage them, so I don't talk about them. I'm talking about how do you manage change. He said, then this kid said, well, look, I like wearing flip-flops and shorts and my hair long and bearded, but I'd really like to make it the corporate world. And I just don't hire people like me. He said, well, how bad do you want it? What do you mean? Well, let me tell you how you can do this. You go work for that company, you shave your hair, you dress right, you play their game, you work hard, you work your way up the chain. Do it right, and one day you'll be the CEO. And when you're the CEO, you grow your beard, you grow your hair, you put on a t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops and fire everybody that doesn't look like you. I mean, you have to sometimes play the game. That doesn't mean that you are committed to playing it for life. So my message there is that when the leadership in the states is where it starts, with the affiliate level, at the county level. It's okay for any one of those leaders to embrace this. Or find leaders in your county that do embrace it next time around. I'm not saying this is a position against or for any person currently running for office, because I cannot have any opinion on that. But if you don't choose the leaders you want, you'll end up with the leaders you get. It's pretty simple.